I used to think birthdays got quieter with age, but no one tells you they get lonelier too. Ethan hovered behind my shoulder, one hand resting on the chair like he owned it. The cake sat in front of me with one flickering candle, just one. Claire had bought it store-bought, no name, no frosting, just "Happy Birthday" in cheap plastic letters. "Make a wish, Dad," Ethan said, tone flat, already glancing at his phone. I drew in a breath. The room was full, my son, his wife, their two kids chasing each other around the table, but it felt like I was blowing out that candle in an empty house. Right as I leaned forward, Ethan mumbled it, not under his breath, just low enough to seem casual. "Don't be a burden, Dad." The lighter clicked shut. Claire let out a quick snort and coughed into her napkin, hiding the smirk. I sat back. I didn't say a word. There was a pause, a twitch in the air before my grandson shouted something about juice, and the moment was gone. Swallowed. They moved on, I didn't. Claire cut the cake with a knife I bought 30 years ago. She served Ethan the biggest slice. Mine was thin, dry, like a leftover favor. "You okay, Dad?" she asked, syrupy. "You're awfully quiet tonight." I nodded barely, just tired. "Well, don't overthink it," Ethan added. "We're all stressed. Kids, house, jobs, you know." I used to carry that stress for him. I worked double shifts so he could go to college. I took out a second mortgage to pay off their first down payment. I buried my wife while raising our son through her funeral. Now I was a burden. After dinner, I excused myself early and climbed the stairs one slow step at a time. The house creaked beneath me like it didn't recognize its owner. They moved me into the smallest bedroom last month, said it was easier that way. Claire needed her studio back. I sat on the edge of the twin bed and pulled open the drawer. There it was, the manila folder, crisp, untouched, the trust. My trust. 2 million spread in investments, a home half paid off, and the legacy Linda and I spent our lives building. I hadn't signed it. Ethan had been pressuring me for months. "Just sign it, Dad, let's simplify things." Claire called it future-proofing. I called it theft hidden in smiles. My fingers traced the edge of the paper, but I didn't open it. Not yet. Downstairs I heard laughter. Claire's voice loud and sharp. Something about space and he's getting worse. I closed the drawer slow. No tears came. Just a dull ache like something inside me had finally cracked. Not loud, not broken, just shifted. If anyone's listening, don't make the mistake I did. Don't give everything to people who stop seeing you as human the moment they taste comfort. I stood up, turned off the lamp, and let the room sink into darkness. In the mirror across the room, my reflection stared back at me, older, smaller, but still standing. The candle had gone out, but something else had lit inside me. I didn't disappear overnight. They erased me in inches. The armchair was the first to go. I came downstairs one morning and found it missing from its usual spot by the window. In its place, a garish blue toy bin, overflowing with plastic dinosaurs and puzzle pieces. "Where's my chair?" I asked, not loud, just enough to be heard. Claire didn't even look up from her phone. "Storage. We needed more room for Liam's playthings." I nodded, no argument, no point. That chair was where Linda used to read every evening. It smelled like lemon oil and dust. Now it was buried in a garage next to tools no one used. At breakfast, the kitchen felt smaller. Ethan scrolled his phone between bites. Claire stirred her coffee like she was trying to scrub something out of it. "You know," she said casually, "we should look into facilities." My spoon paused midair. Ethan didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His silence said everything. Agreement, relief, strategy. "I'm right here," I muttered, but neither of them flinched. Liam dropped his cup. Milk spilled across the table and Claire jumped up, all energy and scolding. My words faded under paper towels and cartoon apologies. Later that day, I opened the mail, or tried to. My name wasn't on any of the envelopes. Nothing for you today, Claire said, taking the stack and walking off. 3 days later, I still hadn't seen my bank statements. That night I double-checked the hallway cabinet. My blood pressure pills were missing. The new bottle never arrived. Must be a delay at the pharmacy, Ethan said when I asked. It was. They weren't forgetting me. They were slowly editing me out. They made my room the playroom. They started locking the downstairs office, where I used to keep my documents. They even started calling me him in conversations I wasn't meant to hear. Claire's voice from the laundry room. He just sits there, doesn't help, doesn't move. Ethan sigh. He's old, what do you expect? I sat by the window that evening, staring at the garden Linda planted. The tulips were dying. I should have felt sadness, or rage, or fear. Instead, I felt something colder. Steel. I'd been underestimated before. By enemies, by men in boardrooms, by illness. Every time, I outlasted them. I swallowed my pride with every bland spoonful of oatmeal. I smiled when Claire made snide remarks. I even thanked Ethan when he bought off-brand coffee. Let them think I was wallpaper. Because wallpaper watches everything. They forgot who I was before the cane, before the limp, before the gray. I led men into fire. I survived Linda's death. I know how to hold my breath and wait for the right moment. They think I'm weak. But I am still here. And I am still watching. I always read the label before I take my pills. A habit from the war, from hospitals, from watching too many men trust the wrong bottle. That morning I noticed it immediately. My heart medication had a different name printed on the side. Not just the pharmacy label, the dosage was wrong. Half of what I was prescribed. Enough to keep me breathing, but not enough to keep me safe. Claire, I said, holding up the bottle at breakfast, this isn't right. She barely glanced at it. Oh, must be a pharmacy mix-up. She said it like I'd lost my glasses again. Like I was being fussy. Like I wasn't the man who tracked supply crates down to the serial number in enemy zones. It's the wrong dosage, I said. Well, she sighed, you're not a doctor. I turned to Ethan. You know my prescription, you've picked it up before. He didn't even look up from his plate. Dad, you're imagining things. There it was, that cold little phrase, the seed of doubt, gaslighting. I've heard it before, from officers who wanted to bury reports, from bosses who buried truths under paperwork. I didn't argue. I just nodded, capped the bottle, and took nothing. From then on, I started hiding my real medication. I counted every pill at night like a soldier counting rations. I wrote the date in the back of an old paperback, so Claire wouldn't find it. I watched their routines more closely. Claire left the kitchen unlocked when she got lazy. Ethan forgot to charge his phone at night. Small cracks. I slipped through them like smoke. Then one afternoon, I heard a soft ding. Ethan's phone was on the couch, face up, unlocked. Notifications blinking. I moved slowly, didn't want to seem too eager. My thumb slid across the screen. Photos, notes, then voice memos. I pressed one. It began to play. Claire's voice, calm and clinical. Once the trust clears, we can move him out legally. Nursing home, maybe even assisted living. Just need that signature. Ethan's voice followed. He's close, just tired enough, it won't take long. I didn't feel shock. I felt confirmation. All the whispers, the missing mail, the changed meds, it was never paranoia. It was a plan. They wanted me gone. And not just gone, processed, moved, erased. The house, the money, the life I'd built, all of it rebranded as theirs. I put the phone back, screen still glowing. I sat down in the chair by the window, the one they hadn't stolen yet, and stared outside while the screen dimmed to black. I didn't tell them what I'd heard. I didn't scream, didn't cry. That night, while they watched some mindless reality show in the other room, I picked up the landline. I dialed slowly, Every digit felt like a step forward. "Rosa," I said when she answered. There was a pause, then her warm voice, "Mr. Hale, are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I'm ready." The night outside was still and dark, but inside me something had started to move. Quiet, focused. A wire pulled tight, waiting to snap. People like Rosa carry something most people forget, the weight of compassion without pity. She knocked on the door just after noon, holding a paper bag and a smile that reached her eyes. The smell of cinnamon followed her in, soft and warm like the way she used to fluff Linda's pillow when she thought no one was watching. "Still like chamomile, Mr. Hale?" she asked, already setting a kettle on the stove. I sat at the table and nodded. "It's just John now." She smiled, but it didn't touch the sadness in her eyes. "John, then." We sat in silence until the tea steeped. She poured carefully, her hands steady, her voice low. "I'm guessing this isn't a social visit," she said. I took a breath and let the words out slow. "It started on my birthday. He called me a burden, right there, in front of everyone." She didn't interrupt. "They moved me out of my own bedroom, replaced my chair, switched my medication, told me I was forgetting things." Still no interruption, just listening, like Linda used to. I looked down at the table. "The trust isn't signed. Ethan wants it. Claire wants it more." Her eyes sharpened. "Have they threatened you?" "No, worse, they smile." She sipped her tea, then leaned forward. "Then we let them keep smiling." I frowned. "What?" "Don't react. Document everything. Let them think they've won. You need proof, not pride." It hit me like a switch flipping on in the dark. I don't have the strength anymore. Rosa reached into the paper bag and pulled out a small black device, a recorder. "I do," she said. She laid out a plan in that quiet voice of hers. She'd check the pills, install the recorder in my room behind the lamp, help me retrieve the trust document without suspicion. Every move would be quiet, deliberate. She would come once a week as a health check. No one would question it, not even Claire, who hated being in the same room with her. "I trust you," I said, and it was the first time I meant those words in years. Rosa touched my hand, firm and steady. "You're not a burden. You're a man with unfinished business." That stopped something in me. It didn't heal it, but it held it still like pressure on a wound. Before she left, she turned back in the doorway. "They think you're fatting, let them. Shadows make the perfect cover." That night I opened the drawer and pulled out the manila folder. I didn't open it, just tucked it beneath my pillow like a soldier sleeping under orders. I turned off the lamp and let the room fall into silence. Behind the lamp's base, the small red light on the recorder blinked, steady, patient, ready. Some things are louder in a whisper than they ever are in a scream. It took only 3 days. I was upstairs, pretending to nap, door cracked just enough. The recorder blinked behind the lamp like a silent witness. Claire's voice drifted up from the kitchen. "He's nearly gone anyway," she said, like I wasn't even flesh anymore. "Might as well get the paperwork done and send him off. Imagine the house without his mess." No anger, no shame, just convenience. Ethan's voice followed, low but clear. "Is the trust signed yet?" "Not yet," she snapped. "But it will be." He's soft, tired, one more little push. I clenched the bedsheets in my fists and counted to 10. Not to stay calm, to stay cold. That night, Rosa came during her usual health check. I handed her the tape. She didn't even blink, just plugged it into her laptop and uploaded it to a secure drive. "Backed up in 3 places," she said. "They can burn the house down, this'll still exist." I stared at the screen. I could hear Claire's voice in my head on loop. Imagine the house without his mess. The house she didn't pay for, the walls Linda painted, the room our son was born in. I nodded once. "It's time." "No," Rosa said calmly. "It's almost time. Now we bait the trap." So I began to change, just slightly. I let my hands tremble at breakfast. I forgot the day of the week. I asked Ethan where the coffee mugs were, the same shelf they'd been on for 20 years. He chuckled, then exchanged a glance with Claire. The kind of glance you give someone when you know the game is rigged in your favor. They started talking more openly. Claire left a real estate brochure on the kitchen counter. Waterfront condos, 2 bedrooms, pool access. A handwritten note on the corner, private financing available. Subtlety was no longer needed. They thought the war was over. I made sure to thank her for the thoughtful reading. She smiled like I was already gone. That night I sat in my room with the lights off, just the soft hum of the house around me. I opened the drawer and pulled out the manila folder, the unsigned trust. In the other hand, the recorder. The two of them sat there in my lap, paper and plastic, silence and fire. One was what they wanted, the other was what they feared. I didn't feel old anymore. I felt ready. Some battles aren't won with fists or fire. Some are won with patience. And proof. Some people don't fall because they're evil. They fall because they think no one's watching. It came on a Tuesday. An email alert pinged my inbox, one Rosa, and I had set up together under a separate account. Claire had submitted a power of attorney form to the bank. Claimed I was too unwell to handle finances. She forged my name at the bottom. John's signature in her smooth, slanted handwriting. Not even a shaky attempt to mimic mine, just arrogance printed in ink. I read the whole document twice. No hesitation, no corrections, just confidence. That was her mistake. I forwarded it to Rosa immediately. She didn't reply with words, just sent me a contact card. Vincent M. Leon, attorney at law. I called him that evening. His voice was gravel and discipline. Rosa told me everything. I served with your wife's brother in Fallujah. Then you understand the value of a silent strike, I said. He chuckled once. That's why I'm here. I emailed him the tape, the signature, the brochure. He replied an hour later. We're not going to stop them, he said. We're going to give them enough rope to hang themselves. Don't confront, don't react. Let them think you're broken. That I could do. The next morning, I shuffled slower. I let my spoon rattle against the bowl. Claire handed me a mug of tea with an innocent smile. Try this new blend, it's good for memory. I took it, sipped it, let it sit in my mouth long enough for her to see. Then I swallowed. She walked away, satisfied. I poured the rest into the sink the moment she left. Ethan hugged me as he left for work. Love you, Dad, he said, voice full of forced warmth. Of course you do, I muttered. They thought they were winning, that every small victory, a signature, a bank call, a changed pill, pushed me closer to surrender. But I was watching. I scanned every envelope. I copied every document. I smiled when they laughed at my confusion. I nodded when Claire slipped real estate listings into my mail stack. I pretended to lose track of dates, all while logging everyone in a notebook hidden inside a hollowed-out Bible on my shelf. Each betrayal was a bead on a rosary, counted, recorded, sacred in its precision. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was collecting. And when Rosa returned that Friday, we printed the bank form. We highlighted the final line. John's signature. Right there in soft cursive, arrogant strokes. Not mine. Hers. I stared at it for a long time, then held it up to the light. The notary stamp shimmered faintly in the corner. I have her now, I said. Rosa didn't smile, she just nodded. Behind me, the recorder blinked. I left the lights off that night and sat in the dark, the paper still warm in my hand. Predators forget the most dangerous prey are the ones that stay still until the very end. Grief has a strange way of keeping things hidden until you're finally ready to see them. I was searching for an old photo of Linda, the one we took in Charleston by the water with the wind in her hair when I found the journal. It was tucked beneath a stack of winter scarves I hadn't touched since she passed. The leather cover was cracked, the edges curled like it had been waiting. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. The first few pages were her usual musings, garden notes, a soup recipe, a memory of Ethan's third-grade piano recital. Then came the final entries. Her handwriting slower now, slanted but still hers. Ethan doesn't look at you the same way anymore. He listens to Claire too much. I don't think he's cruel yet, but she is, and he's starting to follow. I read that line 3 times, then again. You won't see it now. You love him too much, but I think one day you'll have to protect yourself, even from your own son. My breath caught, not from shock, from recognition. She'd seen it, long before I did, and I hated that she had to carry that alone while dying. I hope I'm wrong, she wrote in her final entry. But if I'm not, you have to remember who you are, even if he forgets who he is. My hands started shaking. Not from age, from grief. Not for me, but for the boy who used to crawl into my lap during thunderstorms, clutching my shirt like I was the only thing keeping the sky from falling. Where had he gone? I shut the journal and pressed it to my chest. That night I cried, for the first time in months, not because they were winning, but because I had ignored the signs. I thought love meant blind faith, but Linda saw through the fog I refused to face. The next day, I handed the journal to Rosa. She read it quietly, her thumb resting on the edge of the page like she was afraid to smudge it. "Scan it," I said, "all of it." She nodded. Vincent, my lawyer, called that evening. I told him about the journal. "We'll use it," he said. "Her words, her warnings, a dying woman's concern about her own son, that's not just evidence, that's testimony." We weren't building a case anymore. We were building a story, a real one, with names, motives, heartbreak, and proof. One that no jury could look away from. One that no courtroom would dismiss. And one that no public eye, when it finally came to light, would ever forget. I placed the journal back in the drawer. Not to hide it. To protect it. It had become the heartbeat of my fight. And I would not let her voice be buried again. They didn't knock anymore. They walked in like I was a guest in their home, a guest who'd overstayed his welcome. That afternoon, Claire swept into the living room with a notary in tow. A young woman, bored eyes, holding a clipboard like it was a grocery list. "Oh good, you're up," Claire said brightly. "This won't take long." Ethan followed behind her, hands in his pockets, trying to look relaxed. He was. He looked like a boy hoping the lie would hold just long enough to cash in. "What's this about?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Just some quick legal clarity," Claire chirped. "Formalizing things. The bank recommended it." The notary stood by the bookshelf, flipping open the folder, pen already uncapped. I took the document and sat down with it. Line by line, I read it slowly, out loud. Claire's smile twitched. Transfer of asset authority, irrevocable trust amendment, full property title reassignment. My finger stopped. And full beneficiary rights of John Hale, to be relinquished to Ethan Hale and Claire Hale, effective immediately. I looked up, "So everything?" Claire shrugged, too casual. "It's just paperwork, you know how these things work." "I see." I held the pen in my left hand, the one I never write with, and signed. Shaky, slow, nothing like the signature on my license or will. The notary barely glanced at it before stamping. "Thanks so much," Claire said, ushering her out. "You've been amazing." Ethan didn't say a word. They left the room smiling, thinking they'd won. I reached for the lamp and clicked it twice. In the hallway, Rosa heard the signal and began the upload. I called Vincent. He picked up on the first ring. "They tried to make it look clean," I said. He laughed, humorless. "That'll be the mistake that buries them." "Can you invalidate it?" Already done, forged under pressure with a known medical concern, not worth the ink they wasted. The recorder had picked up every word, every pause, every nervous shift in Ethan's tone, every false smile in Claire's voice. It wasn't just greed anymore. It was coercion. That night, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a predator believes the prey has finally stopped running. I sat by the window, the sunset bleeding gold across Linda's framed photo on the sill. Almost there, I whispered. They say betrayal feels like a stab in the back, but mine happened with linen napkins and candlelight. Dinner was roast chicken. Claire always made it when she wanted something. Ethan poured wine like we were celebrating. Halfway through my meal, the doorbell rang. Claire looked up, startled. "Are you expecting someone?" I wiped my mouth with the cloth napkin. "Yes." Vincent stepped in, crisp suit, briefcase in hand, eyes like steel. "My lawyer, my witness." "Evening," he said. "Mind if I join you?" Ethan stood up. "What the hell is this?" "Sit," I said. Claire's face turned pale, her fork clinking softly against her plate. Vincent placed the recorder on the table, pressed play. Claire's voice filled the room. "Once the trust clears, we can move him out legally." Then Ethan's reply, "He's close, just tired enough." Silence. I stood, slow and steady, holding Linda's journal in my hands like scripture. I opened to her final entry and read aloud. "Ethan doesn't look at you the same anymore. He listens to Claire too much. I don't think he's cruel yet, but she is." Claire tried to interrupt. "This is insane." Vincent raised a hand. "You'll want to hear this part." He slid forward, the forged power of attorney form. "I believe this is your handwriting," he said to Claire. "Filed with the bank, without John's consent." Ethan's voice cracked. "Claire, you said we needed to simplify things," she barked. Vincent continued. "The notary signature has already been invalidated. The recording confirms coercion. The journal provides character evidence." I looked at Ethan. He wasn't speaking. His eyes darted to the journal, the tape recorder, then back to me. "Dad, I didn't know she." I stepped closer. "You knew," I said, voice quiet. "You sat beside her while she planned to erase me. You didn't stop her." Tears welled in his eyes, but I felt nothing. Just a dull ache where my love for him used to be. "You were my son," I said, "but you forgot what that meant." Vincent opened his briefcase and laid out the new documents. All access revoked, trust permanently reassigned, property secured. A report has been filed for attempted elder abuse. You'll be hearing from the state. Claire stood, screeching. "You can't do this. This is our house." "No," I said, turning to the mantel, lifting the photo of Linda. "It was never yours." I left the documents on the table, the silence behind me heavier than the betrayal had ever been. At the door I paused. "I may be old," I said without turning, "but I'm not powerless." Outside, Rosa was waiting in the car. And I didn't look back. Some victories don't come with applause, just a signed paper and silence you can finally breathe in. I stood outside the notary's office, documents in hand, the late morning sun warming my shoulders. The trust officially transferred, Rosa's name beside mine, not as heir. As executor, the money wouldn't go to Ethan or Claire. It would go to the place where it mattered, to veterans' care, to brothers in arms who still bore the weight of sacrifice long after anyone remembered their names. My house was mine again, legally, fully, quietly. Inside the office, the notary had offered a handshake. "Not many men do what you just did," she'd said. "I'm not many men," I replied. Ethan and Claire had moved out 2 weeks prior. No screaming, no dramatic goodbye, just a sheriff's warning, a few quiet visits from Vincent, and an understanding that the law and the evidence were not on their side. There were no charges, not yet, but the report was filed, their names attached. The kind of record that stains everything it touches: mortgages, background checks, social circles. And maybe, if there's any justice left in this world, their own children would one day ask, "Why did Grandpa cut you out?" I didn't wish them pain, I wished them truth. Rosa drove us home in her old sedan, the same one she'd used to bring comfort to Linda's final days, the same one that had waited outside the night I walked away from Ethan. We entered the house together. Claire's curtains were gone, the cold decorative mirrors too. What remained were real things: photographs, old furniture with stories in the wood, the smell of lemon oil and dust. Rosa placed fresh lilies beside Linda's photo on the mantel. "White lilies," she said softly. "She always loved those." I nodded, my throat thickened, but I said nothing. I walked into the living room, slow but steady, and lowered myself into the armchair, my armchair. The one Claire had removed. Rosa had brought it back without asking. The cushions still remembered me. I looked around the room. The walls didn't press in anymore. They breathed. Not because I'd taken revenge. Because I'd chosen dignity. Rosa sat across from me with 2 mugs of tea, chamomile and cinnamon. She handed me one and smiled. "It's your birthday tomorrow," she said. I smiled back. "Is it?" She laughed. "You always pretend to forget." The next evening she brought out a cake. Just one candle, no guests, no fanfare. She lit it and leaned closer. "Make a wish." I stared at the flame, flickering gentle and still. "I don't need to," I said quietly. "I already received it."